Good morning and welcome to the Alibi Security Live webinar series. Today we've got a unique special format. Rather than just presenting to you, I wanted to change this up a little bit and have a conversation with our buddy Keith about Alibi Cloud. So today's session is going to be called Coffee with Keith. We will be covering the Alibi Cloud VS. We'll go into detail on the solution, applications, and get into some of the sales tactics on how you go out and sell this solution to your potential customers and prospects. So Keith, thanks for joining me today for a nice casual conversation on Alibi Cloud.
Always happy to talk about it.
So when we talk about Alibi Cloud, I guess the key question that comes up from a lot of our dealer partners is, why cloud and why now? We've been a traditional on-prem security value-added distributor for so long. Why now? Is this a great time for us to introduce a cloud product?
Yeah, no, great question. Comes up a lot. And I guess I always like to premise this as saying now is kind of a relative term. You know, we've been evaluating cloud-based video solutions for a couple of years, waiting for the right time, waiting for the right product to kind of come about. The maturity of other things that cloud solutions require. So when we think about video systems being put in the cloud, that's been done for 15 years, upwards, depending upon the location of the world, the companies that have been working in this market. And it's really just now starting to become a part of everyday life where it seems to make sense. So, most people use cloud-based systems on a daily basis without even really knowing it. From consumers, in your home, you're streaming Netflix. That's a managed cloud service. Businesses moving to managed IT services. They're moving kind of file sharing services all to a cloud service. Dropbox, for instance. Yeah. Even recently, if you pay attention to government projects, the JEDI project. Yeah. There's a huge need for people to put things in the cloud because there's just traditional advantages to the design of that, the way it's maintained, the way that it can be updated. And the way that you can just take advantage of computing on a much larger scale. In our industry, what we were waiting for is one, platforms to be stable to make sure that we can get video where it needs to go in a very timely fashion. Obviously video is crucial. Evidence has to be there, and you don't want to drop any of those video files and frames. Two, infrastructure. Bandwidth is a key part of any cloud solution. Yeah. So waiting for ISPs to allow speeds to be high enough to really make this a viable solution on a large scale. And third, just the market demand. If you look at the way the market is heading, they're predicting a 30% growth just in the American market, over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, year on year. And that's not being driven just by guys like us trying to promote these types of solutions. It's customer demand. They're just things that customers are asking for that cloud is just better suited for.
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of IT directors who have moved their entire organization up to the cloud, and video may be the last kind of holdout. And now, with bandwidth, to your point, infrastructure, they now have the capability and the solutions like Alibi Cloud VS to get that up to the cloud.
Absolutely. Right? It's the natural evolution of where we are.
Right. Gotcha. Great. That's great background. So, I'm the marketing guy, right? And we work closely together in the office. We literally sit right across from each other. And, as we've taken this into the marketplace to kind of help our dealer partners, those folks on the webinar right now understand what this means. We use the terminology true camera to cloud video surveillance, right? And it's kind of in that key phrase that we've tagged this solution with, and to me there's an importance to that I thought you could kind of share with the folks out there, and why that direct camera to cloud really is meaningful and is a key part of the solution.
Yeah, so we call it camera to cloud because when you move to a hosted video solution, you've got to get the video up to that solution somehow. But traditionally there's got to be some sort of I guess some people call them gateways, some people call them bridges. There's usually an on-premise device that still has to take the video feed, translate that to a cloud integrated solution, and then push it up to the cloud. We don't do that with our solution. So we actually put that integrated code into cloud-enabled cameras. So the camera goes on site at a customer's location. it then streams everything directly to the hosted service at the data center with no other equipment needing to be there. And that's a real advantage because it eliminates a couple of things. One, there's less hardware. Automatically, you're putting cameras up, so there's less on site to worry about failing. There's less to maintain, there's less to install. And what it really does is it helps eliminate just one more point of failure that you have to worry about, making sure the solution's online. The last thing you want is all cameras coming into, say, one device, that device goes down or the internet connection to that device is severed, you lose everything. With the camera cloud, if one camera has trouble, it's that one camera. It's not going to affect the rest of the system. So you're kind of decentralizing everything at the edge to make sure that you actually can get it back to a centralized solution. It creates, I should say, another layer of fail-safe to make sure that the system can be online. Moving to a hosted service, you also eliminate kind of one thing, right? When you go and sell a video solution, you're going to be selling a recorder one way or the other. It's either going to be a piece of hardware you sell that the customer is going to have to maintain on site, or it's going to be a hosted solution where you're selling them more of a service-based model that is completely hosted by us or another partner in the cloud. And the key advantages to that is, again, less points of failure. Whenever you're recording video, you want to make sure you're providing someone with a solution that is going to be there when they need it. It's going to store the evidence correctly. And then if something does happen, you want to get to that video. That requires you to think more of than just kind of putting a recorder in. You need to fail-safe that recorder. Most often when we look into small businesses, for instance, they're not really building out a large area or a closet in their business that's going to be one physically secure so no one can tamper with that recorder.
Right.
It's not usually going to be climate controlled and vented, dust free.
Right, stuck underneath the desk somewhere, right?
Most commonly under
a manager's
desk
office
or on a desk.
You're right.
Where anyone can just walk up and unplug it, and take away all of the advantages you have from having a video solution in place. And then over time, that system's got to be maintained. The box goes out on a traditional system. It's got firmware loaded. That software's running. If there are bugs that need to be fixed, someone has to maintain that firmware. You have to remember to go load it. And usually those are manual processes. You have to find the firmware. You have to put it on a USB key. You can possibly pull it down from a downloadable site. Yeah. You update that. Make sure everything's up and running again, and that's something that usually doesn't happen very often.
Right. So a lot of times it's incumbent upon our dealer partners to go out with that USB, with that firmware, and make another service call to upgrade the box so Correct. It's up to date with all the
Correct.
Links.
So at that point, your maintenance costs kind of go up because you're having to roll a truck to go on site to help that customer stay current. So going to a hosted model, the likelihood of you having to go out on site is pretty minimal. You're worried about cameras, and whenever we put updates into the Cloud VS system, those updates happen behind the scenes because it's being done at the data center level. So as we roll new software updates, which happen weekly to bi-weekly, we're finding ways to improve the platform. We're finding ways to fix bugs, to make speeds faster for access. That kind of rolls out automatically, and the customer's none the wiser that anything's taking place. We also are able to host camera firmware in the data center as well. So as we push, say, updates to a camera level, you'll get notified in the Cloud VS system automatically when you open the mobile app or the client software to say, hey, you have updates available. Do you want to update it? That we don't do automatically, and we don't do that for a reason, right? You don't want your cameras to go offline when they update, but we put that in the customer's hands to proactively manage their system. And the end user actually gets to see that. So it's not just the dealer having to worry about maintaining that it's up to date. The customer can do it automatically. So it kind of puts a little bit less of a burden on the installer and allows the customer to truly manage that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And when we talk about the recording capabilities of the Alibi Cloud VS, we talk a lot about the 24/7 recording capabilities, right? We also have a lot of functionality in the solution for scheduling, event motion detection, but that 24/7 to me is really important, right? Because you're not waiting for a camera to kind of get woken up on a motion event and make the front end of that event. Talk about how, just at a broad level, how our solution compares to some of the others out in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So we promote 24/7 recording because that's what we want you to use. Most systems, either whether traditional or whether it's a competitive cloud offering, most people have tried to eliminate footage on their hard drive. One, because they either have an on-premise solution that just doesn't have a large enough drive to record 24/7, or two, they don't want to search through endless amounts of video where they don't know if they're going to get an event tag or anything that allows you to find crucial evidence quickly. We want you to record 24/7 because, like you said, when you look at, say, a motion detection event, you're basing that off of typically a pixel distortion change that the camera kind of can see. That can either, one, be a false alert from something that isn't truly motion, just a change in, say, lighting, shadows, and you get a lot of false positives. Two, you're relying on that event to truly pick up an activity. And sometimes if an object is farther away, it's really small in the field of view.
Right. It's hard for
it to pick it up. Yeah. So you may miss events, which means that you may not have evidence if you need to go back and find that footage. Competitors, that we see in the market, they promote clip-based footage, and that's because they're not building out their cloud infrastructure to support the amount of drive space that 24/7 it requires. Two, they believe it might be slightly a smaller amount of bandwidth because you're only pushing up clips. But it is a risk, right? We record 24/7. We tag every event. So while you may have a lot of video footage recorded, say for a week, you can go back and you can look on your timeline and you can segment out motion events. You can segment out smart events. So we'll throw in an AI engine to do object detection or person detection. Right. And you can see exactly what happened on the timeline to see if it's relevant.
Right.
And then when you add in, say, our smart lookup tool, which allows you to eliminate fields in the field of view, you can then eliminate even further and say, draw a box. I want to see if any events happened in this particular part of the camera. It eliminates everything on the timeline but events that happened in that timeline. So you get to the video very fast, and you know that you recorded every single bit of footage. So, you may have had an event with, say, a 5-second pre-motion on, say, a competitor solution. So you think you have a little bit of buffer cover. That event may have started 30 seconds ago, a minute ago, 2 minutes ago. It all depends upon when that camera decided that motion was relevant enough to send it up to the cloud.
Right. So even though there's a large amount of footage we're recording, the tools, and again, we're gonna emphasize this a lot, right? One of the things we're gonna tell our dealers throughout this presentation and at the very end is get a live demo from one of our account managers. Seeing the tool in action and understanding 24/7, but then how we can help drill down into the specific motion, the event footage is really, really super easy. And not just on the desktop client, but also on the mobile app. It's just, I'm the marketing guy, and even I can use the interface really, really easy. So it's pretty awesome. Now, when we talk about cloud, there's a lot, cloud conjures up a lot of things in a lot of different people's minds. And then our dealer partners are probably a lot more comfortable with it than consumers are. Consumers, to your point, are becoming more comfortable with it because they see it in their everyday life. But cybersecurity and just the security of the solution is a key element in order to make sure that our dealer partners' customers are comfortable with it, right? Having that as their security solution. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what we've got built on the back end of the solution that really makes it secure?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in the security industry, and surprisingly, when it comes to physically securing recording solutions or cybersecurity of a solution, they often sometimes just kind of get overlooked. And it's not by anyone's kind of fault of saying, I don't want to make sure the solution's secure. It's just there hasn't always been a great solution, especially in the cybersecurity world. So outside of not having to worry about physically securing your recording solution, it comes down to, how do you want to access the system? It used to be that getting your system online and seeing it outside of a closed kind of circuit mentality was kind of a rarity. But, over the last 10 years, that's become the norm. When you put in a video solution at a customer's home, a business, wherever it may be, they expect to have access to that at the touch of their finger, just like they do everything else. I can get my phone, I can pull up an app, and I can get to any account that I want to, pretty quick and easy. Video solutions are no different. When it comes to, how you would do that with, say, a traditional system, there's been multiple ways to get it done. You have port forwarding, which is still, unfortunately, the most common way that people try to get remote access done.
Right. We talk a lot about port forwarding around.
We do, and
why people still do that.
And it's not that it was inherently a bad thing to do, years ago, because people just didn't know. When you set a port rule to allow a device in a building to go out, if that device requires both outbound and inbound connections, right, you're opening up a hole in your firewall. Make no mistake, it is a hole in the firewall that says, I'm going to allow traffic to go through this port, and that can be taken advantage of. And for a long time, our industry didn't really worry about it too much because the security industry has kind of been, it's a smaller market compared to most other kind of service-based, industries out there. So hackers weren't really targeting security devices for a very long time. Over the last couple of years, we've seen that is absolutely changing. As attacks have become more sophisticated, as they become automated with, computers running just, scanning protocols over default ports, security devices are being kind of attempted to be taken over. And it's not that, you can do a whole lot with them, but you can do some pretty malicious things.
It still allows access into the system. That's what people are really looking for, right? And because with cloud, we're just pushing the video out. We're not creating that kind of open port or that open access from somebody outside back into the system, which is really important, especially when IT directors go and they do like a security audit of a system and they find one way in. They want to plug that hole, right? Well, we're not creating a hole in. We're just pushing video out.
Correct. So, outside of trying to use, say, like a peer-to-peer system, which some on-premise use, we use that with our on-premise solutions.
Right. Which is more secure.
It's a little more secure. It's a temporary punch through the firewall. Right. Still using ports, and it can still be possibly intercepted. You can add encryption to that, which we do. But there's still, a port rule in place. And it requires inbound and outbound rules to take place. Whenever you look at really securing a customer site for, say, an on-premise, a VPN is still the best solution, which now you're bringing in an added complexity level that a lot of people don't really want to get into, right?
A lot of IT guys don't like to set up VPNs anyway.
No, one, they're a little bit slower of a connection into the building. Two, it's a paid service typically, so there's an added expense to get to the VPN. And VPNs inherently, while they are the most secure way to get into a building, today it is there's still a chance that VPN can be hacked. It's not, while it's a secure tunnel, that tunnel can be intercepted. So when we go to, say, a cloud solution, the way we do it now, we use an outbound rule only. So the camera connects. Once it's added to an account, it gets on a system online. We're streaming video to the data center, and then all access that a customer or an installer sees with the system, at that point, you're hitting the data center. We don't go back to the customer's site for logging in for remote access. It's all done from a third-party location in a very secure fashion, right? So we partnered with a company, Eagle Eye Networks, who they secure their data centers, a T4 data center, and there's very stringent requirements to meet that.
Very stringent. If you want to understand T4 data centers, go online and look up the requirements for a T4 data center. They're crazy redundancy. Cooling, just all kinds of requirements to have that certificate stamps.
Very high.
On it. Yeah.
And then to keep yourself up to date and secure, cyber secure, right? We have to push updates. Every day some new vulnerability might be discovered, some new way to get access to a device might be in place. So you've got to look for that. You have to mitigate against that. And we do that for cloud and on-premise. It's just a lot easier for us to deploy in a cloud environment, which is a native environment, right? I'm pushing it to one server stack or multiple server stacks, right, at a data center. I'm not having to go to 1,000 locations and individually try to update each one on a continued basis. So it becomes a lot easier to maintain.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've kind of beat security to death there. So it's a very secure solution. So when we talk about cloud, right, I think one of the things that I continue to hear from our sales team internally as they're working with our dealer partners is our dealer partners want to understand kind of what the best application or the best kind of scenario when they walk on a site is to sell cloud, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about, from your perspective as kind of the architect, the owner of this solution, where's the best place to deploy cloud?
So I'll be the first and probably always to tell you, I don't look at cloud as application-based. I mean, I do because there's certain advantages to the platform, but it being a cloud-based platform doesn't necessarily mean that it's inherently going to go better in one scenario than another. Really, what you're leveraging infrastructure for is bandwidth. If you have bandwidth in place that can support the number of cameras you want, this is a viable solution. And what this solution really allows you to do is it transforms you from walking in and selling kind of a once-and-done hardware-based solution to something that is service-based. You're selling the customer a service. One, it's an elongated service. So you're maintaining a longer relationship with that customer. you're able to better serve that customer because you can make sure that their system is kind of working the way that it needs to for a longer period of time without necessarily relying on upgrading hardware continually.
Right.
Cameras last a lot longer than hard drives and recorders do.
Right. And you don't have to figure out the total storage requirement up front to build into that box,
Absolutely.
right? Because we can, the user, if they decide they want 30 days instead of 7 days of storage, you don't have to go back out and put a new hard drive in it. We just flip a switch and they get 30 days.
Correct.
Right?
We just turn on a new license. That license then extends the time frame, and now they can store, 30 days, 90 days, a year.
Right.
And you're not having to go do any calculations on what drives I need to put in. Does my hardware actually support the number of drives that I need to put in the system? You eliminate a lot of those needs for continued maintenance and update.
Right.
When it comes to ideal customers, almost every vertical will fit into a cloud-based or a hosted model. When we look at things like retail, restaurants, anybody that does like a payment card system that wants to see their system off-site, to stay in, say, PCI compliance, you can't have ports forwarded. That's a big no-no because it will violate any type of a PCI scan on that network.
Because you're transmitting customer information over that network.
The same network,
so you
right?
Can't let anybody
It's
in.
the same outbound connection. Most people don't have separate internet drops just for one solution or the other.
Right.
So you have to do usually some pretty complex networking and firewall rules to make those coexist. With a hosted solution with Cloud BS, you put the cameras on, we don't require any rules. So the port forward is eliminated. It keeps you kind of compliant without even having to do a whole lot. So you can go into those systems with confidence that you're going to keep the customer safe, not just from a video security aspect, but from a network security aspect. Right. But like multi-user facilities, we run into this a lot where people have a lot of concurrent users. They have, daycares, nursing homes, pet boarding facilities where they want to grant many people access on the fly to see a camera, 1 camera, 2, 3. They want to be able to then easily eliminate that credential if they need to. Right.
As people leave, as clients come and go, right?
It's a centralized solution. So you get to manage all that from one dashboard. And because you're hitting a cloud system versus an on-premise, we're not bound by restrictions on how much bandwidth the recorder is able to push out.
Right.
We're also, people think cloud, they think higher bandwidth. We actually use possibly less bandwidth in the cloud solution than we do with on-premise, depending upon how many users you're going to grant access to. So if a camera needs, say, 1 meg and I have 4 cameras, I'm looking at 4 megabits per second of upload that I need.
Right.
But if I have 30 people and they all want to see that 1 camera at the same time off-site, on a traditional on-premise solution, that's 1 meg times 30 hitting that customer's location. Right. So you're astronomically increasing the upload speed needed. When you go to the VS solution, that 4 meg is up, all the bandwidth is from the cloud.
Right.
So I'm hitting a different location. Customer's bandwidth isn't affected. Right. You're not having to worry about giving them, selling them, go to your ISP and pick a bigger pipe,
right.
Which can, cost a lot, exponentially more, right. depending on how much bandwidth you want.
Right.
But centralized management, centralized updates, it kind of fits into people that need to stay, up to date in compliance.
Right.
And it allows you to kind of segment out. I can put cameras anywhere. I could have a city with buildings all over the city. They could be on separate internet connections, but I can then manage that as one solution without having to worry about setting up VPNs between the buildings. I don't have to worry about making sure they're on fiber backbones across a large period of space to build out a LAN.
Right.
We treat each camera kind of independently. So no matter where it's at, cameras online, right. it can hit one account, one solution, and you just kind of roll from there.
Gotcha. So whether it's residential or commercial, I mean, if the bandwidth allotment is right, cloud should be a viable solution, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, to your point, it doesn't have to be all 12 cameras or all 8 cameras. If there's one specific camera and they need 24/7 recording reliably off premise, right? They don't have to worry about that hard drive or recorder failing. This should be a great solution.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's another way when it comes to applications is, people are dipping their toes in by putting 1 camera. They'll sell an on-premise solution. Dealer then has, we've done this multiple times already. Dealer will put 1 camera. They may actually be watching the room where the recorder is. So they can basically say that I could get someone's face that came in and tried to destroy my evidence.
Well, that's a legal requirement with a lot of cannabis.
It is.
Whether you're a grower, a distributor, or a retailer, that's a requirement that they need an off-premise solution to watch the video equipment in case it gets stolen, which, that's something we're going to publish white papers and have
great
more
for us, great for our customers, right?
Well, it's great for our dealer partners.
Great for the dealers,
especially as the number of states expands. So.
Exactly.
So, one of the things I'm going to implore you guys and gals is get a live demo, right? Call an account manager. We're kind of touching on a lot of different aspects from a technical perspective, from a user management and engagement perspective, but really getting a demo from one of our account managers would be one of the best ways to really see the solution in practice, right? See it live. Order your own demo camera from our team. You using it will be one of the best ways for you to start adding cloud to your project bids, to your quotes. And really, you'll be able to understand the benefits that it brings to your customers better, and it'll sell itself, right? And when you think about how to sell this into the marketplace, start with your existing customer base. You have a list of customers where you've installed on-prem systems. You know the environment, you know the security solutions that they're trying to solve for, right? Go back to those folks and pitch cloud. Find good opportunities, good applications to go take that one camera, which is a traditional wired camera, and maybe turn it into a Wi-Fi camera, turn it into a PoE cloud-enabled camera that starts pushing cloud footage directly into the data center. Now, the other key things is what's in it for you, right? As a dealer partner, there's got to be a core benefit for you to be incentivized to go out and sell this. Not only should it be a great solution for your customers, but you still make the upfront money, right? You're still getting money on selling cameras and going out and doing the installs. So that doesn't change from the traditional systems that you normally install. Now, one benefit that comes with that is reduced installation times. Like he said, because you're going out and just installing a camera and then connecting it to the local network via Wi-Fi or into the router, the installation becomes a lot easier because you're not having to set up a separate device. So in theory, your installation time should be reduced, right? And then once the cameras are installed, you're minimizing the service calls because you don't have a recorder, you don't have a hard drive. All the auto updates of the camera firmware and cybersecurity updates are automatically pushed out and ready for the customer to deploy. And then what we like to think is the most important is this cloud solution now brings you guys an RMR opportunity. So because it is subscription-based, we give you guys the opportunity to sell on a monthly subscription basis, or we just rolled out an annual subscription basis. So you can sell an annual subscription and know that you're getting money for the entire year, and you've basically built a longer-term relationship with that customer, delivering a 24/7 recording solution for whatever time they want. So you can start building your subscription base, start selling it one by one by one, and then as you get into bigger jobs, you'll start seeing an RMR build up over time as well. So that's a key part of this solution that is a core benefit for you guys. And then as the selfless promoter here, I'm always going to send you guys to the website. Go to alibisecurity.com. In the main nav, we have an Alibi Cloud nav link. Go there. There's tons of information on there. Absorb all you want. On your power lead sites, if you have your free power lead sites, we've also put a lot of our cloud material out there. So as you're going out and bidding and quoting jobs, you can personalize the cloud materials with your logo and your business information on the bottom of that, and include that in your brochure presentation or your presentation packet, just for a more professional look. If you don't have a power lead site right now, we actually have made some slight tweaks to the program. It's going to be now called Alibi Arsenal. If you want to learn more about that, because there's tons of resources for you guys to take advantage of, call your account manager. They will hook you up with all the knowledge and put you in contact with our Alibi Arsenal main contact here at the office. Keith's put a lot of work in also to webinars. This is like our 5th webinar in Alibi Cloud, a little bit different format. If you want kind of a reintroduction from the very beginning, we had a live launch event that's on site on our YouTube channel. There's other follow-up Alibi Cloud webinars that talk about specific applications, multi-user management. There's a lot more detail out there. Go view our YouTube channel. More importantly, subscribe. When you subscribe, every time we post something new, whether it's a product video or a webinar, you get alerted, which is awesome, okay? So that's my selfless promotion. And more importantly, call for a live demo, call for a live demo, call for a live demo. see this in action, you'll understand more about how easy it is to sell and the power of the tool. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Hopefully this has given you enough information to whet your appetite to go seek out more, whether it's on the website or on the YouTube channel. If you have any questions, ping your account manager. They'll be happy to follow up with you guys and let us know how we can help you sell this Alibi Cloud BS solution. Thanks much.